Hey guys, so much interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with the patch 4.1b review. And this one is a pretty huge patch because we have new ranked changes, and of course we all know that rank changes generally affects almost everyone unless you don't play rank, which of course there are some of those type of people around. But let's just jump straight into it. So first up, we have the release of Twitch right at the beginning of the patch. So basically, when you're by the time you're seeing this video, it should be about there, or he has already been released. And yeah, of course, I'm really excited for this one. Although I am pretty busy these 2 weeks, so I may not be having any Twitch content anytime soon. But I definitely will be finding a little bit of time here and there to play him and see what he's all about, see if he's good or not, etc. Next up, we have Rank Season 9, where we have Twisted Fate as the Rank Season reward, and also a new skin theme, the Glorious Armada. Personally, I didn't really like the Glorious Crimson skin line. All four of those skins, I didn't really like them very much. I did like the original Glorious skin line though, so hopefully this Glorious Armada skin line is something that I'll like. So basically, the main biggest change of this is promotion to Grandmaster will now require 40 marks. I think this is very logical, makes a lot of sense because at the current stage, it's the standard of ranked is really low. Pretty much anybody who plays a good amount can guarantee get diamond, for sure. And then it's not even that hard to get master. So if you play even more and you're not that bad at the game, you can get master. And then the theory kind of continues on from there, where if you are in master and you keep playing, you will eventually get to grandmaster. Like the I think it's like 300,000 people limit doesn't really even matter all that much because that's a lot of people. The only rank that is genuinely challenging to get is challenger because it's only like top 300 people, so challenger is really difficult to get. But the rest of the ranks, they aren't too difficult. And now currently we're like 1 hour from the rank end of rank season from the time I'm recording this video, and to get to Grandmaster now it's 36 marks. So 40 marks for Grandmaster is more than the amount of marks you need for Grandmaster at the end of the season. So this makes getting to Grandmaster a lot more challenging, and this should, basically if you see a Grandmaster, it should mean that the standard of play is higher. And of course, the new rank season will be starting real soon. Of course, with like probably like a 2-3 hour gap between the end of season and the start of the new season, as per usual. And then we have huge legendary queue changes as well. First up, you now need to reach Master to unlock Legendary Queue, and like what I mentioned just now, I think this makes a lot of sense because there are way too many people in Diamond. I think like the top like 35% of people or so are in Diamond. I think that's a rough estimate, but that's way too many people in Diamond. Like Diamond 4, like four or five seasons ago, when I was in like Diamond 4 was like the top 3% of people, and now it's like the top 35%. Like, just imagine that. So basically, you now need to get to Master, which of course, again, there are still a lot of people in Master, and it's still not even that challenging to get to Master with the current standard and state of ranked. But this definitely means that the skill floor of legendary rank is going to be higher, which is definitely what they want, and it's supposed to be competitive. But a lot of people who just got to Diamond 4, they jump into legendary rank, and there are even people who use legendary rank to try out champions, like, believe it or not. Like, you do need to have that minimum champion score to play in legendary rank, the champion. However, it's really not that difficult to get the minimum score, or so we thought, because that's one of the changes later. So you also must maintain Diamond 4 to continue queuing. So basically, you get to Master to unlock it, and you can drop out of Master into Diamond and continue playing Legendary rank. Just like how now, if you get into Diamond and you unlock Legendary rank, if you drop to Emerald, you can still continue playing. But now the minimum is Diamond 4. If you drop below Diamond 4, you'll get locked out of Legendary rank, which makes a lot of sense. And the mastery score requirement has been raised from 400 to 1,000. So this is not really actually mastery score requirement. This is the champion score requirement, because a lot of people are confused by that. They think like, what's going on. Basically, the champion score also kind of factors in how active you are on the champion and that kind of thing. But basically, How big is this change gonna be? I really don't think this change is gonna matter at all, because I think one of the problems of legendary rank is this. Now, this video is not really the place to discuss that, but for someone like me who only plays ADCs, I don't have, even with the 400 champion score, I don't have any champions unlocked in top, mid, or support other than the ADC champions. So like for mid, I'll have like Lucian and Corki unlocked, and for support, I'll have Ashe and Senna unlocked, which arguably makes the situation worse because it only gives me one autofill champion. So if I go into support, I have to play like either Ashe, Senna, or like a random support champion. And if I go into mid, I have to play either Lucian, Corki, or a random mid lane champion, which we all know is not great for the team comp playing marksman in mid and support. So I think this I get where they're going with this minimum requirement, but I think that if they want to have this kind of things, then autofill shouldn't be a thing, because if I get like autofill top, for example, I don't even have any champion at 400 mastery score anyway. They're gonna give me some autofill champion for me that's like below 100 or 200 score anyway. So really this won't fix the problems that already exist, which is that some people don't even have any champions they play in certain lanes because they don't play those lanes. Like I don't ever play Baron lane, for example. So anyways, the start dates are of course all over here, and you guys can refer to the document yourselves if you want to find out when it's starting in your region. Of course, Twitch release will come with a event. And next up, we move on to the champion changes. Honestly, the champion changes, not too much, mostly not impactful. So we'll go through them one by one. First up, Aatrox getting a change to his cooldown on his Q, which is of course his bread and butter ability. In the early rank, he's actually getting a buff where the cooldown is getting lowered by half a second. But at the latest rank, which is meant to target late game, this quote-unquote nerf is going up by 1 second. Now my argument is, half a second in the early game is not gonna matter. It only matters if it's CC duration, but in terms of like cooldown, half a second doesn't even matter. 1 second in late game also doesn't matter, because by then you have ability haste and whatnot, and that 1 second is going to be severely reduced. And essentially, I think that this change is not very impactful at all. Aatrox is still really strong. Now Mundo, I think this change does actually matter. You used to lose 7% of your health when you get CC'd and your passive is up. Now you only lose 3%. Of course, when you pick up the canister, you used to get 8 and now you get 4. This is an amazing buff, because this basically means that last time what this basically meant is that when you lose the canister, you have to go pick it up. If not, you're losing like 8%, 7% of like your current health. Of course, picking up the canister is still going to be optimal to get your passive up faster. However, it's not a must, so you don't have to suicide to go get your canister, which I see a lot of Mundos doing. So this is a huge buff for Mundo, and his ulti also getting a huge buff. The health gain is going up by 10%. So this is the instant health you get when you pop your ulti. It's going up by 10%. And the trade-off for this is the health regen over time is dropping by 5%. So overall, just in terms of percentages, you are already getting more. But when you really think about it, getting 10% instantly compared to getting 10% over a period of time is huge. So this is a huge burst heal for Mundo. Mundo is getting way stronger, and I have no idea why, because I think with Twin Guard and the new items, I think he's already really strong. So I really don't know why it is that he needs a buff, but yeah, he's getting huge buffs. So Lee Sin getting a 2 AD buff. Now this is really strange. Now we all know their favorite number is 6. They normally buff and nerf AD by 6 and like health by 12. But 2 AD is a really interesting number to increase, because 2 AD is barely even anything. So I guess this will help his early ganks a little bit. It'll help his early clear a little bit, but I think Lee Sin's already really strong. So essentially, I think that this change pretty negligible. Nasus also getting a 2 AD buff, pretty strange. He is getting his Q damage buffed, especially not especially, but by 5 at all ranks. Again, 5 damage doesn't really matter all that much. Maybe in the early game helps a little bit more. In the late game, like what's 5 damage out of 100? But in the early game, 5 out of 25. Yep, you know, it's pretty significant. And in trade-off for that, his ulti resistances, they are going up in the early game, but they're dropping in the late game. So they're basically saying that with Twin Guard, he's too strong in the late game. Now, honestly, I think this is meant to be a nerf to his late game, but it's a buff to everywhere else. So early game, more damage, more damage on Q, like throughout the game. and more tankiness in the early game and less so in the late game. But by the time you reach the late game, you will have Twin Guard, you will have your defensive items, so this matters a lot less. So overall, I think this is a buff to Nasus, and I think that this buff is actually pretty good for Nasus. Now, Pyke changes are a little bit complicated. So basically, the first change is to his passive, the passive being the Grey Health. So the stored damage ratio is now going to be 50% plus 0.65% times fixed armor penetration, and the fixed armor penetration thing still remains the same. Basically, it has just gone up by 5%, so this is a buff. Basically, you're going to have more Grey Health. Now, the second one is talking about the damage cap. So how much is your maximum Grey Health that you can get? Now, basically, the change is that is on this part, the additional attack damage part. So basically, your stored damage cap is going to be the lower number between 60% of your max health, or what used to be 80 plus 8 times your additional AD. Now it's 140 plus 8 times additional AD. Now, this sounds like a very confusing change because it is, but the TLDR of this change is you're likely going to have more Grey Health than previously, so this is a buff. Basically, so because when you increase this, let's say if this used to be the lower value, if you increase this now might become the lower value, and you're still going to get more because this is going to be more than what it used to be over here. And even if this new change is still less than this, it's still going to be more than this, so you're still going to get more Grey Health. So as I said, TLDR, you're getting more Grey Health, so it's a buff. So Phantom Undertow again is getting his minion damage nerf from 80 to 50. I think this is almost back to where it started. I don't even know if it started at 50 or like where it started, but yeah, they clearly just was doing an experiment with Pyke in jungles and lanes, and they clearly did not really like how it's going, so they're nerfing him back to support. And finally, his ulti, the X marks the spot ulti. When you put your X there, if the champion dies before you manage to crash down and execute them, you will be getting 140% kill goal instead of 120%. So again, it's another buff to like Pyke support, like discouraging you from getting kills, I guess. So yeah, Rakan is getting huge nerfs. His base AD is going down by 6, their favorite number. Wonder why it didn't go down by 2. But here we have the Grand Entrance cooldown being increased by a pretty significant amount. Like 3 seconds in the late game is pretty significant. It's not like a 1 second increase like some of the other champions. The damage in the early game is the same, but in the late game it goes down like just by a little bit. But the AP ratio is going down by 15%. The shield on his E also going down by 15%, the AP ratio. So they basically don't like AP Rakan, or they think AP Rakan is too strong, and they want Rakan to be more supportive. Now this makes me really sad. As you guys know, I just released the AP Rakan complete guide not too long ago. I think AP Rakan is way better to play than the normal support Rakan, which is obviously why they're making this change. But I just think that Rakan as a champion, like the support items don't really even help him that much, because he can only heal, I mean, he can only like heal like one guy. Actually, can he even AoE heal with his Q? I'm not even sure, but even if he can, it's really hard to proc. He can only like shield 2 people, so he's not really an enchanter. He's sort of like, you know, 2 enchanter spells and 2 engager spells. He's not a tank, so his itemization is just really weird ever since his release. And I think the AP build was just really good for him, and it's really sad that they're kicking him so hard in the AP ratios. So I don't know, we'll have to see if the AP build is still the best build or not, but these are huge changes. So Tryndamere, getting 2 AD buff and a little bit of extra health regen on his Q, I believe. So basically, once again, it's going to help him in the early game slightly, but not by a lot. Doesn't matter too much. Vi Q cooldown is getting brought down by 2 seconds in all ranks. This is a pretty big buff to Vi, because Q is like her like bread and butter, like gap closer CC, and like helps her to farm as well. So this is just gonna help her overall. Good buff to Vi. Xin Zhao getting a 4 AD increase now. They're really messing with the numbers here. We have 2, 4, and 6. So it's going to help his early jungle clear and ganks, and his cooldown on his E is going down by a second. Again, 1 second cooldown I think doesn't really matter all that much. And Zoe finally is getting a nerf. Now, I got excited for a while until I realized the nerf is probably not going to matter too much. So the base damage on her Q is going down by 5 at all ranks. 5 damage, like how that doesn't really even matter that much. The increased damage ratio with champion level is going down by, again, like very negligible amounts. Her E, base damage is going down by 10 at all ranks, and the true damage cap is also going down by 10 at all ranks. Now overall, you're losing 10 damage and 5 damage and 10 damage. You're losing like 15 damage from your combo. Like, does that really even matter? I guess when you take into account like AP ratios, you're losing more than 15 damage. But at the end of the day, it seems like quite a small nerf to me, so I don't know. Like, she previously only got nerfed on her W, which is definitely not the problem area. Now they're hitting the problem areas, which is of course a Q and E, but doesn't seem to be very, like, it doesn't seem like it's gonna be very impactful. Let's just put it that way. ARAM changes, just gonna, leave it here, pause if you guys want to see it or look at the document yourself. And finally, we have the rune changes. So bone plating is getting nerfed by 5 at every level because it's really strong. And I don't know what I feel about this because okay, let's talk about the next change first. So second wind is getting buffed from, instead of 3 plus 2% missing health, is now 6 plus 2% missing health, so they're encouraging more people to take second wind. Now in my opinion, second wind is never going to be a good rune because second wind is a laning phase rune where if you are getting destroyed in laning phase, you can take second wind, and that second wind can help you regen up in lane so you don't get completely destroyed. This is especially relevant in Baron lane. And now the issue with second wind is that laning phase in Wild Rift matters a lot less than PC, because laning phase in Wild Rift generally lasts for a good, like, I don't know, like 9 minutes or so, and within that 9 minutes, the first minute or so is your minions walk into the lane, and at minute 5 you have Herald and Dragon fight, so the total amount of time you actually spend laning in your lane is probably gonna be 7 minutes at most. Like for example, if the Baron lane stays in their lane for the whole time, it's gonna be 7 minutes. If you rotate to Dragon and etc., it's gonna be even less than 7 minutes. So second wind is never gonna be good because it's a laning phase rune, and your laning phase is normally less than half of the game. Your laning phase is less than half the game, and there are so many better things you can take in this spot, like what they just nerfed, bone plating. Bone plating helps you with your laning phase matchup a little bit by negating some of the burst, and it also helps you in the late game. Whereas second wind barely helps you in the late game because that small amount of health regen is not even gonna matter in the late game, or in the later stages of the game, not even the late game, the mid game as well. So I think that the second wind change is pretty pointless, and the bone plating change, I guess it does kind of make sense, but generally, for the resolve tree, there's always been one OP, quote-unquote OP rune that everyone takes. It gets nerfed and then another rune becomes OP. So it started off with Hunter Titan being OP. Everybody took Hunter Titan. They nerfed the tenacity and health on Hunter Titan, and then they introduced Nullifying Orb. Everybody took Nullifying Orb because of that shield. They nerfed Nullifying Orb, and then everybody took Bone Plating, and now they're nerfing Bone Plating, and it's just gonna be a cycle where there's gonna be one clear OP rune in the resolve slot, and everybody's gonna take that one OP rune. So I don't really know what's gonna happen after that. So Twitch, Omega Squad Twitch is releasing with Twitch, and the Nova World Championship skins are releasing on the 28th of April. And of course, these are from the Twitch event, and that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.